Welcome back to Rough Cut Woodworking. What we're going to cover today in this series for kitchen cabinets is the corner cabinet. Now there's two main types of corner cabinets. Up here on the board I've drawn, let's say, an inside double wall. So two walls, 90 degrees, inside corner. We have a corner cabinet here and cabinets that go across both directions, that way and this way. So what do we do with a corner? The best way to fill that for most people is a Lazy Susan cabinet. And mine, as we build them out, they're going to be 36 inches in both directions, 3 feet. So there's going to be a cabinet edge here and another one there, and then we can have more cabinets going both directions, however you want to lay it out. This is called an L-shaped corner cabinet. And this is fine, and we do it every so often. In my opinion, it's the more difficult of the two styles to do, because you end up with a bifold door. And making these two cuts can be tricky with the setups we have. What we do is a 45-degree angle here. We just get rid of all those. And we end up with a cabinet that looks like this, where the countertop goes at a 45. That means there's only one door you have to build, and it's a little bit cleaner. The cut is easier in my shop. In addition, we do clip off the back corner as well. So there's actually nothing here in the very back. The reason we do that is because when walls come together with a lot of extra sheetrock mud and issues that could happen in building, by cutting that off, I don't have to deal with walls that could be a little out of square, at least in the corner. So this is what I'm going to demonstrate, is this 45-degree cut. So let's go in the shop and start making cuts. Our first step in making the corner cabinet is we're going to make the sides. Now, in a previous operation, when I did sides for all the lower boxes, they're all the same. So I have two extra sides that I never used, I didn't put together with the other boxes. So they're just sitting off to the side. They're made the same, the holes are the same. There's one difference, but we'll get to that a little bit later. Next, we're gonna make the top and the bottom of the corner cabinet, and that's gonna be done pretty much every time with a full sheet of melamine. It's a 35 by 35, and we're gonna clip it at a 45-degree angle. I'll explain that as I go. First step, bring over the sheet, and we're going to trim the top and the end to square them up. Then I'm going to flip the board over. The simple reason is cutting 35 inches down here means that top is extremely heavy. It's hard to hold up so it doesn't crush the blade. So I'm going to flip the whole board over, so now my good edge will be down, and we'll cut the top off at 35 inches. This is where two people come in handy. But since it's just me, I'm going to show you how to do it with one person. Now that I've got the two 35-inch square pieces, find this jig that I made, the one that says save and don't get rid of it. What we've got here is upper cabinets made the same way. The corner cabinet that's an upper, these are the dimensions you're going to need, and I'll explain in a second. The lower ones, the ones that we're making right now, you're going to need these two. So let's explain what happens. Take this, set it on the saw just like you would a piece of wood normally. And large lower cabinet, I always do the bigger number first, but that's totally up to you. 45 and 11/16. Set the stop to 45 and 11/16 right there, and this slides up to the stop, right up against it. Don't let it wobble. Now that that's sitting there, it's in the correct position for me to put my top and bottom in to make a 45-degree angle cut. Here's how it looks. Take my piece, and there's a small notch in the bottom of this for the corner to sit in, so it sits nice and even, it doesn't wobble. Now I'm ready to make my cut, and that is the corner that's going to go into the inside corner of the wall. We're going to trim that off. As I cut, you may have seen from the back that I'm putting my knee against the board and I have a hand, my left hand is on it. It's still kind of top heavy, so make sure you've got a good grip so it doesn't topple to the right as you're cutting. So take the piece off, make the same cut on the other piece. Now we're going to set the stop to the other one. The other one says 43 3/8. So I'm just going to move that in. 43 3/8 is right there. Pull it back into place gently, and then flip it around to do the other side. And this one's going to be a little more wobbly because now it's missing a little weight on the left side. Same cut. All right, and this is the top or bottom. So this bigger end represents the door, and this end at the base goes into the corner of the wall. Over here on the boring machine that we use to put in the dowels, these are the two sides that were already pre-made. Now, I mentioned that there were some differences. Now, all the holes for the adjustable shelves are there. You can see them on this side and this side, but I haven't done the dowel holes yet, and I had to leave them aside. And the reason is hard to explain. Because the front of this cabinet is at a 45-degree angle instead of a 90, I have to reference where the sides are placed from the back. And like I said, it's hard to explain. But all you gotta do is take your sides, and instead of putting it so the edge banding is against the fence like we usually do, we're going to do all the cuts, the boring from the top and bottom, with the edge banding away against the back. So this is the back, the edge banding's here. I'm pushing the back against the fence all the way in, top or bottom, it doesn't matter, it's the same. And then we cut. Okay. You only need one cut on each. Flip it around, back edge, edge banding away, and so it goes against there, and do it again. And now that's going to reference from the back side the first pinhole that'll line up with the top and bottom. Repeat the same process on the other side. One other thing to mention, if you accidentally drilled the holes from the front, like we usually do, that's okay. You drill them from the back and you'll have double holes. You just got to remember which holes you have to keep, which ones get the glue and the dowels. So that's okay, it doesn't hurt anything. Now that those are done, we need to drill the top and bottom. So we lift that up and bring over your top and bottom. All right, here's one of those tops and bottoms, okay, whichever one you like. This is the front, and so the sides that get the holes, if this is the front, it's this one and this one. It's not the back. These are the back against the back walls. Now, as you can see, it's too big to fit on this machine. So what do? We just unscrew one of these and pull off the stop. We can use only one stop and it works just fine. All right, so we're ready to cut. This is the front. So the two sides are here and here, okay? So I know that's where it has to be drilled. So here's my front, and the next one, the side to it, is being drilled. This is the back, so it is referenced from the back like we did the left and right. So here's the back edge. My front is close to the machine. Hold on to it nice and tight because I don't want to push out. And that one is now drilled. Now, since I don't have the other fence, all I have to do is flip it over, And it's the exact same setup. So here's my front edge close to the machine, that's the side, and drill again. Now also notice that I'm doing this before I put edge banding on. That's going to be extremely important when you're doing the upper corner cabinet, because one of the drill heads is set perfectly to drill right into the front. Now it can drill into the front, I don't care. The edge banding will just cover that and it'll disappear. Now we have the edge bander running. Let's edge band the front edge. That's the longer 45-degree cut. Again, we want to check and make sure it doesn't rip off. But you notice on the 45, it doesn't trim it exactly. We'll do that by hand. To take off these little tabs, all we're going to do is take a box cutter, utility knife. Here's where it pays to have a straight cut, a steady hand. Kind of hold it straight and just go straight down. Now if you curve out, that's not uncommon. Just nibble away until it looks flat. Then do the same on the other side. Like I said, if you nibble away, there we go, and it's flat. Do that on both pieces. The next thing we need to make is the piece that goes in the back. There's some structure here in the back. This represents the walls where they come in, and then there's a little bit of a gap. But the back here will give this the rest of its structure. So we have our side and our side that hold it up, and then the back is so it doesn't tip back and gives it a place to go. All you got to do is measure from this corner to this corner. Now it's very difficult to use the end of your tape measure like that because I can't tell where that is. So burn an inch. Go to 1 inch to exactly that corner and all the way down here. Now it's coming out to about 12 and 5/8. Since I burned an inch, remember it's 11 and 5/8. That measurement, 11 and 5/8, is going to be the width of the back. So I can set that to 11 and 5/8 right there. Its height has to be the same height as the sides, which makes sense, so it stays flat. So those sides are almost always 30.5 inches tall. And then cut to 30.5. Now you'll notice I'm not using the panel saw. I mentioned that it tears out a lot. In this case, because it's in the back and how it's situated, it doesn't matter. Tear out, you won't see it, it's all going to be covered. If your Lazy Susan has shelves in it, then you're going to want to do this step. The one that we're making today does not, but I still wanted to show that process. If we were putting shelves on this Lazy Susan, or this cabinet, I should say, then we have to identify the bottom so that all the holes line up correctly. And again, we just put 2 lines, and for me, that designates down. We put those 2 lines against my stop, make the cut, flip it around. That's the bottom now. And now that's all set, and now the holes will line up with the side ones that we did earlier. The last thing I need to do to this back is, and it's kind of hard to explain, but I need to clip off these 2 corners at a 45-degree angle, because these corners here on the end are going to stick out and they're going to nudge against the wall and make the cabinet not square. So we're going to tilt this blade to 45 degrees. So I've got the camera set up so you can see it turn. I raise the guard so you can see that 45. Now that adjustment is on the left side of the table saw, and you just start turning the handle. And if it's set right, when you can't turn it any further, that's 45 degrees. There, so that's 45, that's as far as it'll go. Now the idea is to trim off the corner on the inside here and then I'll flip it around and do it again without making the whole thing shorter. So I want to keep my good trued up edge. So this is where you got to play with it a little, take a little nibble cut and see if it's right, and keep moving your fence in until it's right. So I lock the fence in, I'm looking down, and I know I'm already too short, but that's okay. I want to take a little cut, then I can adjust a little at a time. Once you got it, keep it on top, push it through, to keep it tight to the fence. So I've cut off that edge, but I still have a little bit of my original good edge on there. So it's also not torn up either. Now that you got that one set, all I have to do is flip it around and cut again, because I didn't actually make this shorter. This is a good edge, and I'll do the same cut again. If you haven't already done so, go ahead and cut out the backs for this cabinet. You probably have with the big batch of the list of backs, but either way, get it ready to go. To put together this cabinet, you're going to need a few extra tools. Now, I've got my standard staple guns, one with long staples, one with short, the glue bottle, the mallet to put in the dowels, but in addition, you're going to need some of these extra long squeeze clamps, these quick grips. And I've got 4 of them that can be used just fine. The reason we need those is because of its odd shape, it doesn't fit into my press, so we need to use these as the press to get the dowels put in. Now we come to the tricky part, is assembly. This one is a little bit more difficult than the other ones. Pull out a handful of dowels, and as usual, get the dowels in all the holes and pound them in. Take your time, be careful so you don't pound through. Now we put the sides on one at a time. Now that we glued it, you got to be fairly quick with the clamps because we don't want that glue to set and expand the dowels. So take your structure, slide it over, and bring it up to its 45 back corner here, so it's sitting like this. And now we take our clamps and we have to crisscross them. So open it all the way up. And the more important is the side that's gluing. I don't care where it is down here, it doesn't have to be centered. But I want it fairly centered on this side. Nice and tight so this gap is gone. And you notice that I've laid it flat, really flat against that side, because this one is going to need some room to be able to clamp on there as well. Nice and tight. So there's no gap in the middle. There still is a little gap in the corners, but we take out these gaps with a mallet. Gently, not too hard. We just kind of tap and ease it in. With pressure along the middle, this is now wanting to bend down, but can't because of the dowels. It's too tight. So we just give it a little bit of help. And that one looks good. Now that these gaps are tightened, repeat the process on the other side. Once the clamps have had a few minutes to set up, it only takes 2 or 3, you can pull them off, lay them aside, and we need to put that little back piece that we cut on. And again, that is attached with long staples. So I look first, which edge is the bottom. I see my marks on this side, so that is down. So I want to tip it so it's correct. Just pick up the end, slide towards you so it doesn't fall off the table, and then carefully as you can, set it down. This is again where more people help. Just push it to the end of the table here, and then find that piece. So here's that part that we made. Again, my lines are here, that means down, so I put that on the table. And I'm gonna line up the top so it's flush. Using long staples, staple it in. So what I'm doing is lining up this top so it's totally flat. I don't want it to be crooked. If I put this on awkward, then it makes the cabinet not square. Now on the bottom, the temptation will be just, well, it's sitting there, I'll just go ahead and nail it in. The thing you gotta remember is the tabletop isn't necessarily flat, so I gotta push down on this and hold it down to make it flush with the bottom. So line it up left and right, then give it a little bit of weight down so they're both nice and flush on the bottom side. Once the carcass is actually built, it's got a good structure, before you put on the backs, and I know that's what you're going to want to do immediately, it's a lot easier to put in these cleats before that. And they're going to go one in this opening and then one on the other side. So what I've done is I pre-cut this cleat, so it's a little extra long. And I think this is 29 or 30 inches, something like that. You can measure. But keep in mind, there is a bad side. You can see this chewed up edge here and here. And then there's a definite good side where there's no chewing up either one. Make sure the good side is facing in the cabinet. So this is going to butt up against this board, and I'm going to staple it right here. This side, however, is at a 45-degree angle. So this is where what we need to do is, instead of guessing where this 45 cut is, I'm just going to take it to the chop saw and cut that 45. So because it's easy to get the 45 the wrong direction, I can see that it's going this way. So I'm going to draw a line on there like that. That shows, while that isn't exactly 45 degrees, it does give me a direction. So I can set up the saw and cut it correctly. Do that on both pieces. All right, so here's my good face. It's going to sit in here like this, and I want the direction cut has to be that way. So now I can go cut it on the chop saw, then come back and cut them to exact length. Right now I'm just doing the 45-degree cut. For this one, you can see the direction. Now I turned the light off of this machine just so you can see the line easier on the camera. But what we've got is the 45 goes this way, so I have it set up. Remember that the saw blade going this direction will tear out the back. So I want the good side facing out so that it's going to have a good cut. So bring it to 45 and just make an arbitrary cut. Notice that I cut nice and slow so the bottom right here doesn't tear out at all. That cut right through there, and I have a nice clean cut here. So that one's done. For the other side, you can see the cuts going the other direction, and I want my good face out. Make sure that's a good face. Okay, there we go. And we have it correct. Good face is toward me. I need the rest of the board going the opposite direction, so then I just swap it out to 45 the other way and make the same cut. Nice and slow so we get a good clean cut. We come back to our unit here, figure out which one goes where. So this one goes on this side, and this one goes right here. Okay, so there's my cut. I put it in so that it's flush right here in the back. So I can just ease it in and out. Obviously it's sticking out the other side a little bit because it's still way too long. But once that's flush, and you got to hold it in place, grab your pencil, and I'm just going to trace the inside edge right here, and that gave me a line for my length cut. Make sure to cut on that side of the line, of course. And then repeat for the other side. So hold that in place, nice and flat, and trace that line right there. Make those cuts, come back, and then we're going to staple it in with long staples. Now, to put this in, let me turn this a little bit so it's a little more accurate on the camera, more straight on. Take our board, and we need to staple it in with long staples. Now on this side, I can't staple. There's a 45, I can't go straight in. You're gonna blow it out of the other side. But on my left side, I can go straight into the end here. It does get a little tricky holding it with one person, but make it flush, and then right in the end, 2 shots, so that's flat. Now I have to hold this up, because remember, I just can't do it here. Hold it up nice and tight, because stapling straight down will want to push that out and you'll have a gap all the way across. Now once the first one's in, the rest go in pretty easy. So all the way across, that's in. Even though it's not supported here, it is over here, and that's good enough. Turn it and do the other side. Now we're going to put on the backs. Okay, if it doesn't fit one way, fits the other way. There we go, just like that. Now change the staples to use the short staples. And what you need to do is get this top corner fairly flat. I want it flush on the side here, and then I always lift it up off the table slightly, and it helps so that it doesn't extend too low. So lift it up a hair so it's not protruding too high, but it's flat over here. Now I go down to the bottom, and I have a pivot point that now this is moving. Make the bottom perfectly flush and staple along this edge. Now I check the top. Actually, the top looks really good, but I can lift or I can pull to make sure that this is square. This is my chance to make it perfect, and it's good right on the money. Okay, flip the gun upside down. And I'm just using the table as kind of something I can drag this across. You can go pretty fast. Now on the back side here, again, you've got this 45-degree cut where it does get thin closer in. So I'm going to shoot further back where it's thicker. Just make sure you're aiming closer to this back edge, and then it won't push through, pop through the other side. And there's one back. Turn it 90 degrees, put on the other back using the exact same technique.